George Soros, the globalist Jewish bankster, boasts of nationwide riots, quote unquote, if special counsel Robert Mueller drops his investigation. George Soros has boasted about plans to roll out nationwide riots across the U.S. if Mueller drops his Trump-Russia probe. The Soros-funded radical left group MoveOn.org has warned it, quote, will begin hours after news breaks of a Mueller firing, end quote, according to a post on his website. Donald Trump is publicly considering firing special counsel Robert Mueller, the person leading the Department of Justice investigation of possible illegal actions by Donald Trump and members of his presidential campaign, and the efforts to conceal those activities. This would be a constitutional crisis for our country. It would demand an immediate and unequivocal response to show that we will not tolerate abuse of power from Donald Trump. Our response in the minutes and hours following a power grab will dictate what happens next and whether Congress, the only body with the constitutional power and obligation to rein Trump in from his rampant, will do anything to stand up to him. That's why we're preparing to hold emergency nobody is above the law rallies around the country in the event they are needed. That's what they claim. IntelliHub reports, now the snowflakes at MoveOn.org are saying it would be a constitutional crisis, quote unquote, if Trump were to fire Mueller and vow to hold emergency nobody is above the law rallies in all 50 states. The alternative left group's plan is as follows. If Mueller is fired before 2 p.m. local time, events will begin at 5 p.m. local time. If Mueller is fired after 2 p.m. local time, events will begin at noon local time the following day. Now the thing is that we see every hour that goes by, every day that goes by, the Mueller team is totally biased against President Trump. And they're also involved in obstruction of justice. From the former FBI Director James Comey to various Mueller team agents who were colluding in order to downplay Hillary's crimes. They were obstructing justice. This is not to be done. And they will be indicted because someone has to go to prison for this. They were working behind the scenes. Peter Strzok and his amore, his mistress, Lisa Page, both of them members of the Trump team investigating the Russia collusion, were out to delegitimize Donald Trump. This by an intelligence agency, the FBI, who is supposed to be authorized to uphold the law of the land. And they were doing just the opposite. Now, there will be consequences, and as they come in, as details come in, we'll keep you informed. This is this is, from what people say, Newt Gingrich, for example, the first time this has happened in the United States history. This is terrible. Of course, we know that George Soros is the man that wanted Hillary in office because he wanted the globalist agenda to be fulfilled, and that could not happen if sovereignty, national unity of the United States takes place, and this is exactly what they voted for. That's why Trump is in office. The globalist plan cannot take place as long as the United States has its sovereignty. That's why George Soros is so irate. And he's, of course, funding Hillary. Hillary funded the Trump dossier, etc. And we know all this is a vicious circle. This is on your Newswire.
It's happened with the FBI, but it is very sad when you look at those documents, and how they've done that is really, really disgraceful. And you have a lot of very angry people that are seeing it.
President Trump taking aim at the FBI after the release of anti-Trump text messages between two senior officials, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, who were involved in a special counsel investigation until last July. And we're back now with a panel. Well, Brian, the Washington Post had a story this weekend, I don't know if you saw it, that said that these texts back and forth between Strzok and Page were really an effort to cover up the fact that they were having an extramarital affair. And the question I have is, does that clear it all up for you?
Yes, thanks. We have some time left in the segment, so I'll fill it. No, absolutely not. You got to be kidding me. The one thing that stood out on the text messages more than anything else was the fact is they were building in a plan just in case on August 15th, and I think you even referred to it earlier in the show. On August 15th, they were going back and forth on a text message. They talked about a plan just in case Donald Trump won, and he went on to say, just like having an insurance policy.
Well, let me put this up, and let's put it up on the screen if we can, guys. And this was a text that Peter Strzok sent to Lisa Page on August 15, 2016, and it says, I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office. We think Andy was Andrew McCabe, the #2 official in the FBI. The path you threw out in Andy's office, that there's no way Trump gets elected, but I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. Continue.
What I'm trying to say is for any Republican who was worried or on the fence that there might have been some bias amongst the top level of the FBI when it came to the investigation and against his candidacy, that is proof positive. Unless they're referring to Andy Griffith, who starred in Matlock, as well as his own black and white TV series, who had a lot of success. But I couldn't see those.
Proof positive of what?
Proof positive there was an anti-Trump bias at the top. And Peter Strzok is all around this investigation, enough to make you want to probe. And that's what Jim Jordan indicated that Bob Goodlatte is going to be doing when we get back from Christmas break.
We asked you for questions for the panel, and we got this as a tweet from John H. Converse, who writes, we demand the military be apolitical on duty, even though we allow them to have political ideology. Is it too much to demand the same of the FBI, IRS, DOJ, Department of Justice? One, how do you answer John and Brian?
Well, just as the military has political opinions, so do people who are jurors, who are lawyers, who are judges, who are FBI agents. We're human beings.
But if a judge had, if we had read statements that were blatantly favoring one side against the other, they would be forced to recuse themselves.
That's not the point. The point is what not
well,
that
you.
Not
your
that
point.
You, no. I'm speaking to your point. The fact that you write them down. My point is that you have these opinions. It's no question that people have opinions. The question is their integrity. Can they perform their job in an impartial way despite their opinions? And what we know is that according to the Attorney General Jeff Sessions, the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, and the FBI Director Chris Wray, just this week, all have said the FBI is performing its jobs very well.
Wait. They weren't saying that about Lisa Page and Peter Strzok.
This is a total distraction. Let me just say, this whole discussion is so interesting to me because it's all part of the Trump legal team assault on the integrity of law enforcement in this country, intended to distract
Not
people,
the rank and file.
distract people from the investigation into ties between the Trump campaign and its officials and Russian interference. And this is all a setup potentially to fire Bob Mueller.
We'll get to that in a minute. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein testified before Congress this week, and he took some heavy fire from Republicans on just this issue. Take a look.
How with a straight face can you say that this group of Democrat partisans are unbiased and will give President Trump a fair shake?
We recognize we have employees with political opinions, and it's our responsibility to make sure those opinions do not influence their actions.
And we hope that he was able to clear the frog in his throat. But Congresswoman, look, nobody is talking. This is a red herring. Nobody is talking about the FBI in general. Everybody agrees that it's a good, solid agency. We're talking about individual actors here. When you read those texts where they just trash Trump, they say that he's loathsome, that he's an idiot, and then specifically this August 2016 one where they talk about, we got to have an insurance policy in case he gets elected, you don't find that troubling?
And so what? I mean, the fact is that you have two employees who were having an affair. They were taken off the investigation in July last year, and now you have a series of indictments that have come from the Mueller team. And this line of questioning, attacking Mueller and attacking the investigation based on a couple of employees who had an affair and we're covering that up and writing stupid emails, so what?
Look, a lot of these texts, they are stupid, they are embarrassing, they're not necessarily sinister. The sinister one is the insurance policy text.
The one we've been talking about.
Right. We need to hear from Strzok under oath about what he meant by that. I also think there's enough now to be worried about this investigation. I think Bob Mueller, for his own good, should dismiss Andrew Weissman, who's a Democratic partisan. His top deputy also sent an anti-Trump email. And Jeff Sessions should bring in an outside district attorney who has some independence to look into the entirety of how DOJ and the FBI handled 2016 and to get to the bottom of it. But if Donald Trump takes from all this a permission slip to fire Bob Mueller, it would be a catastrophic mistake. And the irony is here, as far as we know, it looks like Mueller is not turning up evidence of collusion. So I think if Trump could just sit tight, Mueller probably will vindicate him at the end of the day, and firing him will do more damage to Trump than just sitting this out.
I talked to 3 different White House officials, and that is what Congresswoman Spires said is total fiction. There is no interest in firing Mueller.
We should point out, what did she say?
And what she came out and said that there's word is, and rumor on the Hill, that before Christmas he's going to make a major speech and say, Mueller's fired, investigation over. They said, we haven't even discussed that in private conversations. It has not come up. 3 different people who work at the White House, just to make sure that I had the right information for you, because I know you demand it. Absolutely.
Yeah, don't go single source on this.
Exactly. I know, because you're a true professional.
This is like Watergate here.
And I know I got 2 great people here to debate with, so that's not going to happen. But what happens? Trump wants this to end. He wants to see what it's like to have a presidency without this hanging over its head.
Then he needs to stop attacking
this is real,
special counsel. He needs to stop attacking Mueller, and he needs to let the investigation play out.
Well,
it hasn't stopped his allies on the Hill from attacking Mueller.
Because they are finally understanding that there's something to attack.
In D.C., has there ever been an independent counsel, special counsel investigation of a president that hasn't engendered a partisan reaction? We all recall the 1990s, and the Democrats were not very nice to Ken Starr. If I remember correctly.
Fine, but this takes it to a new level, Rich. I think people talk about Colin Kaepernick, Black Lives Matter, undermining trust in our police. They did nothing as comparable to what this president has done to the FBI at this moment.
Well, the FBI has also hurt its own credibility.
All right. You know what I liked about this panel? I had to do very little work.